Welcome to Empowerment Unfiltered. I'm your host, Coach Jay. Today we have a special guest on the podcast, Audrey D. She is a psychotherapist out of Wyoming and doing great work there with individuals and couples. Um, she has been a long time professional in that career. She started out in education and then after 5 years got into doing therapy and has been doing that for how many years?
Uh, 15-ish.
Yeah, definitely a vet in the game, and we're excited to have her on. And she also happens to be my sister friend, girl. Yes, and we have been friends since pre-K,
Yeah.
so we've known each other for a very long time. And I'm actually going to pop in a little visual for you all when I post this of us,
Absolutely.
if I can find a picture of us from back in the days.
Yeah.
Um, I know I do have one handy from when we were freshmen in college. That one, the cute one with our little faces together. I know I have that in my phone. But anyway, audience, we are just talking to friends, but also to professionals and want to share it with you because it is Mental Health May. So we want to share some things with you today. And we're just going to have a conversation about that. The theme of Mental Health May happens to be having community as well as what a good day is. So or what constitutes a good day in terms of mental health. So I invited our guest here to have a full spectrum conversation. So we're just going to dive right in.
You were curious about my favorite part about my work.
Yes. What is your favorite part about doing psychotherapy? And also talk about, because I thought of this before, talk about the difference between being in the area where you are now because you have moved at different phases of your career. And if there's any difference in the areas and the work that you do.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. There are so many things I love about my job. In fact, I just had a conversation with a new friend. We were on a run and they were asking, what do you do in your free time? And so I was telling about the things I do in my free time. And I was like, and I work a lot. And this guy's retired and he was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I'm so sorry." And I was like, no, that's like my favorite thing I do.
Yeah.
Of all the things I told you about, my work's my favorite. So
Yeah.
I really do love it. And I think what I love about it is how different and dynamic it is. Like no day is the same. Um,
Hmm.
and I think we have a golden retriever. Joy's met our golden retriever, Hazel. And Hazel, like when we're out on a walk, she will say hello to other dogs only because she has to, but she really loves humans. And I
Hmm.
just am like, I think I'm just a golden in human form. I just love humans. Like I could be with humans all day. I just love them. And so I think that's what I get to do. And it's really fun.
Yeah.
And it feels meaningful and
Hmm.
hopefully helpful, so, and so
I'm I'm sure your clients definitely find it helpful
yeah.
and they keep coming back because you're good at what you do. So
Yeah, I mean
that always helps.
sometimes when you're good at what you do in this profession, they don't come back, which is also good. So
There is that little double-edged sword part to
yeah,
it.
totally.
That's true. That's what I wanted to explain to the audience was that I'm a little different in terms of the coaching that I do because I do have the background in education and counseling support. And so, because I do have that, I am able to go, I would say, a little deeper just to keep it general. However, when it comes to specific clinical diagnosis and assessment, things of that nature, I do refer to my trusted network for those services and the clinical work that needs done there. So the way you can look at it is coaches are not what I call a bootleg version of a therapist. Therapists do very scientific based clinical work, and they are working with people for uh, it could be for a very extended amount of time. Sometimes it's undetermined until they reach a certain point in their therapy, and that determines where they go from there. With coaching, the difference is we have a set or determined amount of time that we're trying to take you from one place to another.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would be a difference there. When I am working with a client in faith counseling, again, which is different because that's not the typical coach, right? So I do get into using therapies, and I use that word very lightly.
Okay.
So they're strategies that are clinically based. and I'm working with clients on specific things. So let's say we're dealing with a trauma, and they have a desire to have faith-based counseling for that. Now, I'm not unpacking the trauma and going deep into the clinical side. That's where I refer them out if they need that work.
Mhm.
But we are going to talk about how they are day to day living and coping with that. And because I'm certified in the area of trauma, that's something I can work with someone on.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
where Audrey would come in, for example, is with that same client, if I am referring, I have a supportive pass off, if you will, to the clinician. It's not just a cold referral, like, here's a number, contact this person. What your therapist would not do, and your counselor or coach would not do, is discuss the specifics because of HIPAA, obviously, but we can definitely make a smooth transition, and that's what we do with that.
Yeah, a
So,
warm handoff, we call it.
yeah, yeah, warm handoff for
Yeah.
sure.
And sometimes if you sign a release of information, you can discuss those details because sometimes a
Mhm,
hurdle to getting into therapy is that people have worked with a coach or
mhm,
and they don't want to restart over at the beginning. You
mhm,
know, it's like I've already gone through it all. I have to go through it again. And
mhm.
they would love for you to fill
Yeah.
me in on the details. And that's up to the client. And
That is a good point to bring up, because a lot of people also would have that question as far as, how do I, almost like if you were dealing with customer service and you didn't want to start your whole story all over again, but
exactly.
you had done some great work, but you wanted to start from that point. So there is a legal release that you can sign, and that is shared between the providers, so that that warm pass off, I like that, can occur.
Yeah.
I also wanted to bring up the point of being in different areas. So in my state, the faith counseling that I do is governed by the state of Ohio. There is oversight for that. In Audrey's state, there is also oversight by the state for clinicians, and she definitely is abiding by those regulations and rules there. Um, if she were to, let's say, um, provide services for someone outside of that area, there is also an ethical and legal way to go about providing those services. So, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I used to live in Park City, Utah, and then we moved about 3 years ago to Jackson, Wyoming. And so I'm licensed in both states. And so they have, like you said, there are different requirements with for CEUs, and you got to pay money and fill out some paperwork and whatever. You want to be
Mhm.
licensed in that state. So if somebody's
Right.
not in Wyoming or Utah, then I'm not really supposed to work with them.
Mhm.
Sometimes if you're like temporarily out of the state, you can have
Mhm.
like clinical rationale for doing that, but that's
Exactly.
not, y-
Like an exception.
yeah, an exception or something
Correct.
like that. Right, right. Um, versus I think is coaching, the rules are different around that. Maybe you don't have to be in the state. You could coach
No,
someone.
you don't.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, that's a difference for sure. Yeah.
Right. You definitely can coach outside of your state.
Mhm.
And again, the paperwork and the ethics behind that are different.
Mhm.
But in terms of, just having ethical practice and communication, as far as when you are wanting to refer someone
Yeah.
for additional services, then I have to say, I am not licensed in your state. However, I can, do some research and support you in finding a trusted network provider
Mhm.
in your state. So that's how that would happen,
Yeah. Yep.
if there needed to be a pass off in terms of services
Right.
for clinical work to be done.
Mhm.
So it may sound, we're talking as providers, so we're like, yeah, 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 totally makes sense. But to the average person, they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So I really want people to understand it's not as daunting as it sounds.
Right.
And it's actually a good thing that you have a team, working with you. And you have that ability, which is why I, enjoy being able to do this work, because I really am able to do, more of a warm pass to someone who is going to do that diagnostic work, and they trust me in that relationship, so they know that, or they expect that I'm going to provide them, a clinician that is trusted and ethical and able to do the appropriate work with them. So
Yeah.
that's actually a good thing.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. It can be so confusing these days with TikTok and Instagram, and it's just like,
Yeah.
who's a coach and who's a therapist and who's a
Yeah,
psychiatrist and who do I go
exactly.
to? And I think what you're saying, Joy, is a good point. Is like just get through the door. And
Hmm.
those of us on the other side of the door, like kind of know what our generally, right? What our roles
Yeah.
are. And if you're
Hmm.
in the wrong place, we will help you find the right place. And if
Exactly.
what you need changes, we'll help you figure that out too. Just getting in the door is like the most important part, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. And we will help you with the transition either way.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, I'm going to back up a little bit to go back to um, the idea of this, having a mental health good day.
Oh yeah.
When we talked about, the themes for the month.
Mhm.
So I would like to know, I was just curious from the clinician standpoint, how would you explain to a person what a good day would look like when it comes to mental health? And then I'll do the same in regards to coaching and counseling.
Okay. Yeah, I love this idea. I don't know if I've ever asked a client, like, what is your idea of a good day? And so that was a
Mhm.
great question for me because I was like, huh, how would we determine that? And I think what I
Yeah.
came down to is like a good day is one where one practices self-awareness and then self-regulation. Those are kind of the two goals for any client who comes through my door anyway.
Mhm.
And so, like, if you had a day where you felt like you needed to cry, and so you did, or you wanted to do something fun and you were able to get there and experience joy, if you,
Right.
had a hard experience, but you felt like you stayed regulated and responded how you wanted to, maybe
Mhm.
the day included all of those things I just mentioned. Like, I think a good day is one where a client of mine feels like they know themselves and they feel agency in the world and
Mhm.
how they show up, no matter what's
Yes.
happening in front of them, right? Like that, we can't control the outside world, but do I feel like I know my inside world and I can love it and regulate it and have agency with it? So I think that's what I would say.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that, and I think that depending on where the client is, because if they're coming into a situation where they're in a mini crisis, right? Like you said, having that agency and being able to be self-aware, and in that moment, how am I responding to this situation, or am I reacting to it where I am feeling really dysregulated? And if I am dysregulated, that's okay because we're human and that happens. So then how do I bring myself back to a place of center and regulation where I can now feel like, okay, I can deal with whatever this mini crisis is
Hmm.
in front of me.
Yeah.
So that's something that I find to be really important, because sometimes even how the overlap happens with coaching, it's like, yes, we have a goal in mind that we're trying to get to, and phases of that and strategies we're using with it. But if you're going through a mini crisis,
Yeah.
we need to attend to that, you
Mhm.
know? And so that's where the strength of my counseling ability comes in. And I always have to articulate. Now, there's a certain point where I'm able to um, kind of mentally diagnose in the moment whether or not this is something that needs a clinical support,
Mhm.
or something more intensive. And then I support the person in how are we going to get you this additional support that you need.
Yeah.
There's no shame, there's no negativity whatsoever in that. And just helping the person to feel like at the end of the day, I want to be regulated, whole, and I have those goals in mind. But sometimes, first things first, we just got to get you centered, okay? And,
Mhm.
get you to a place where you feel like you can even handle
Yeah.
that next step. That makes a good day.
For a good day. Hmm.
That makes a good day, depending on what the person is. So I guess what we're saying is there's no straight definition, right? It's just where you are in that moment, you know, and the good day is, can I be okay with me, and can I move forward from here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good day could look like a million things. That's right.
And just a moment of transparency, because I want to talk about this as well, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Just how, as people who work with others and supporting others, as I said before, we're human as well. So let's say in our lives, we have moments where things don't go as planned,
Hmm.
right? And
Not to mention
sometimes, Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Because people have the perception that, if you're in the helping profession,
Hmm.
your life has to be perfect. And
Yeah.
that's so not the case. Like,
Yep.
I have to help you, but literally, um, my dog is sick and I need to take him to the vet, or my kid sprained their ankle at practice, or whatever the case may be. And I have that, in the back of my mind, but I also am in this moment, I need to help support you.
Hmm.
Right. So the good day for me in my own mini crisis or whatever have you is, how can I regulate, come to center, and be able to focus my energy fully on this human who needs my support?
Totally.
What's your take on that?
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly it. It's like being self-aware enough that I'm feeling um aroused around a thing. My mom's sick. I had a fight with my husband this morning, whatever, all the normal things. And that I
Hmm.
can like take a deep breath and regulate and kind of
Yeah.
shelf that for now. And that it is possible to show up with 100% focus and energy and be like, I can deal with that in later today or whatever.
Mhm.
Sometimes I have to make a plan around that. Like, when am I going to follow up with my husband?
Yes.
When am I
Hmm.
going to get to call my mom and check in on her? Whatever the thing is. And once I feel okay about that, then I can take a deep breath and kind of drop in, is kind of how I describe it, right? And I just
Okay, I like that.
like drop in to the next moment, which is not dealing with my husband or my mom or the kid or whatever. The now is this, So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's um, and it's not always that clean, but on a good
Right.
day, on a good day,
Yes.
it goes.
On a good day, we manage.
Yeah.
On the good day, we manage to get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the clear message, guys, is your good day is your good day. It's not comparable to mine or Audrey's or the next person.
Mhm.
It's defined by you, because I can recall a time where a good day for me was being able to get up out of the bed
Totally.
and go in the bathroom, take a shower, brush my teeth, do my hair,
Mhm.
because I was so depressed that I couldn't even,
Right.
right?
Yep.
That is a good day. I've been there in my life before. I don't mind saying that.
Yeah.
But, there's other times where the good day is I'm firing on all cylinders. I'm in this thing. I know what I'm doing,
Hmm.
you know,
Exactly.
and that might be a good day. So it varies, but we definitely know that the key is having that self awareness and center.
Hmm.
Um, and that leads me to the point of, because we talked a little bit about having other humans, participating in our worlds and how we're functioning in that. So that leads me to the sense of community,
Hmm.
which is the other part of that theme that the
Yeah.
mental health month has.
Hmm.
So when it comes to community, for you, you mentioned earlier, you did move from another state, from Utah to Wyoming, and you had a community, there in Utah,
Hmm.
and really strong community. I enjoy spending time
Hmm.
with some of the folks in your community, and then moving to a new space and having that, new experience,
Hmm.
new town, all of that. How did you see, or did you see a difference in the way that clients there connected to you as a therapist, or with each other in the community,
Hmm.
um, as opposed to in Utah, or was it similar?
I mean, I think like Park City and Jackson are very similar towns. Hence, the move was not as dramatic as it could have been. But I
Mhm.
think the communities are really similar. And so connecting to them and how the clients connect to me, I think there's a lot of homogeneousness. I might have just made that word up. A lot of
I
homogeneousness.
think it's a real word.
Okay.
It's a,
Good to know. Yeah, I think community, it's interesting because like when I do assessment, I probably
Mhm.
spend a lot more time asking about a client's community and their supports than they ever expected their therapist to ask. And I probably ask a lot more about community than I do about things they thought I would ask about. Um,
Okay.
because I do think it's a huge part of mental wellness. And
Yeah.
I love that saying, like, wellness begins with we, illness
Hmm.
with I, right? And there's a lot to that. And
Yeah.
um, at some points in my practice, I would say 80% or more of my clients have moved in the last year. So that just shows how dysregulating it can be.
Mhm.
to uproot and move. And so it's been relatively smooth for us personally because
Yes.
we had some community here in Jackson before we moved here. So it wasn't like we
Awesome.
were at ground zero or anything like
Right.
that. But nonetheless, that's probably been the biggest adjustment for me personally. And then I worked virtually. So I was living in Jackson, but most of my clients were still in Utah. So
Okay.
as of about a year ago, I'm seeing clients in person in Jackson, and that has been just like a lovely game changer in terms of like how I relate to the community here. And
Okay.
that's been awesome. So, but yeah, I just went all over the place with this community thing, but I could talk for hours about community and connection and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a really integral part of the work that we do, and helping people, facilitate their own sense of wellness.
Hmm.
Because like you said, digging into that sense of community is it's like the nucleus,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And when that isn't there, you can tell in
Yeah.
the way people process. I can speak from experience. I
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it makes a big difference in the
Yeah.
way you process.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Yeah. On my end, I'll just add to that. One thing that I notice is, I hate to make blanket statements, but it seems like younger adults, like, Gen Z or maybe some younger millennials,
Hmm.
don't put as much of the value on that sense of community initially.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe that's just from what I've seen.
Hmm.
Again, it's not a blanket for everyone, but I've noticed the difference
Mm.
in how, some older people value that nuclear sense of community,
Yeah.
and how you can use that to help them do their work,
Mm.
whether it's, working through the emotions or trauma, or reaching a goal,
Hmm.
with that. Um, there's always that initial tie back.
Hmm.
But with younger adults, it seems like they don't put the same, do you know what I'm saying? They don't put the same weight on the value of community. They just think it's me and my world, and I'm going to work through whatever this is we're talking about.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and maybe that's like, the phones and just the social media and just like your friends are in your room on a screen, not actually in your room, right? And stuff like that. So I think there's been, yes, like a dissolving of some of the importance of like community and getting together in certain ways
Yeah.
that we used to, for sure. I have two high schoolers and they are very much so still into like gathering with their friends, which is really encouraging.
Really.
And
Yeah.
I think that sometimes these things swing, right? It's like a pendulum. And so I don't know, there are parts of me that hope maybe it's just that we are disconnected more than we have been before, and that
Mhm.
I think we're hopefully seeing the value of like community and coming back together, because I do feel like I'm seeing that. I mean, maybe it's the kids, but adults too.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think it ebbs and flows, and I agree that we're more disconnected than we have been in the past, like old school. Um,
Yeah.
but I hope that there's like a swing in there that's going on too.
That the pendulum's coming back this way. Yeah.
I don't know, but I hope so. Yeah.
I do too, because I feel like, as a whole, the communities, that's how we find more healing, more togetherness. And you don't have that same isolation that I have to do this
Hmm.
hard work
Hmm.
by myself.
Right.
I mean, can you do it? Sure.
Hmm.
It might take longer. It might be more difficult. It might be hard to get some good perspective on certain things when you're isolated.
Hmm.
But when you are in community, as it relates to your mental health, it is, I find, easier to work through those, those challenges and those difficulties, and identify those needs that you have in a different way. So I encourage people to, and self included, I encourage that connection,
Hmm.
um, because it definitely helps to heal,
Yeah,
um, and helps to grow when you're in community.
for sure.
Um, so I am aware of our time, and I want to be conscious of that. I definitely wanted to wrap up with a little something. I'm just glancing at my notes here. So for the audience, just to bring this back full circle,
Mhm.
um, we are to mental health providers, providing in different ways, licensure and certification in different ways. And just know that whatever it is that you need, I believe that whomever you choose to work with can help you get to the next specified provider or support system that you need as well. So don't be afraid to ask those questions. It's very important. Don't be afraid to ask in terms of background and focus, because I know with Audrey, she has certain specialties that she does a lot of work with her clients with as well. So it's good to ask those questions and find out what it is, not just that you need, but in the future, what you may be able to get support in as well, because they may have a specialty in that area. Both can be very powerful, both are very helpful, and hopefully you have a really cool provider like us who's going to talk you through it and be human with you. That's what I love about Audrey, is that she's just very human. If she's like, look, this is what it is, I'm going to tell you, what the on the clinical side, but I'm going to be very real with you and bring it home so that you really can identify and resonate with what it is I'm saying. Definitely not stiff at all.
Yeah, thank you. I takes one to know one, takes one to know one. Yes,
Yes,
yes, flexible, real, authentic. I think those are things that are important to both of us, for sure.
for sure. Well, I thank you for being on with us today. And I know you're going to come back and visit with us another time.
I hope so.
So, yeah, I love that. And I want to just leave that door open so we can, get some feedback from this one and see what it is that viewers would want to hear more from us on and what would be helpful.
Yeah, that'd be
Um, and I know that your schedule gets packed with family stuff and fun stuff, and they're very active family, so
yeah,
I have to squeeze in. But we do have on the books that I will be coming in the fall, so I'm definitely looking forward to that.
yeah. We'll have to do one in person together.
Yes, I would love, love, love to do that.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys, we are going to wrap up. Until next time,
Thank you.
know that you don't, yes, thank you. And know that you don't have to do your work alone. Feel free to reach out, visit us at myempowermentalliance.com. And you can also visit, where can people reach you if they wanted to reach out or ask questions or anything?
Yeah, audreyduross.com is my website, and email and all other important things should be on there.
All right. Thank you. Until next time, be empowered.
Thank you. See ya.